Close your eyes if you wish and let the weight of the day slip away. Welcome to boring history for sleep, where the past unfolds like a gentle river, carrying you through time with a steady, soothing current. Tonight, we invite you to drift into the heart of ancient China, to the Han Dynasty, a world that flourished between 100 BCE and 200 CE. This is an era of vast fields and towering palaces, of emperors who dreamed of eternity and farmers who toiled beneath an unforgiving sun. It's a world where the first whispers of the Silk Road began to connect distant lands, where scholars penned wisdom on bamboo slips, and where the rhythm of life was both relentless and strangely serene. Picture yourself standing on the edge of a quiet village, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and blooming millet. The horizon stretches wide, a patchwork of rice paddies, glinting under the early morning light. Somewhere, far beyond the hills, the imperial city of Chang'an hums with the ambitions of emperors and the debates of scholars. But here, in this moment, the world is simply yet infinitely harder. This is the story of the Han Dynasty, a tapestry woven from the sweat of peasants, the conquests of rulers, the mysteries of ancient trade, and the elegance of those who walk the corridors of power. As you settle in, let the details of this ancient world wrap around you like a soft blanket. There's no rush here, no urgency to stir your senses. Our journey will unfold slowly, each story a thread in the larger fabric of history, designed to guide you toward rest. We'll walk through the mud of a peasant's fields, follow the ambitions of an emperor who reshaped an empire, unravel the enigma of a trade route that spanned continents, and step into the refined world of a scholar official. Each tale is crafted to inform, to intrigue, and to lull you into a state of calm, where the boundaries between past and present blur, and sleep feels like a gentle invitation. So, breathe deeply. Let the sounds of the modern world fade, the hum of electronics, the distant murmur of traffic. Imagine instead the soft rustle of straw roofs in the breeze, the faint clink of bronze tools, the whisper of silk robes in a distant court. This is your journey tonight, a voyage into the Han Dynasty, where every life, from the humblest to the grandest, left its mark on time. Let us begin. Imagine yourself waking in the pre-dawn stillness, the air cool and heavy with the scent of damp earth and straw. You are a peasant farmer in the Han Dynasty, living in a modest village along the banks of the Yellow River. Sometime around 100 BCE, your home is a simple structure, its walls made of packed earth, smoothed by years of hands brushing against them. The roof, thatched with dried reeds, creaks faintly as a morning breeze stirs the world outside. Your bed is a woven straw mat, thin and unyielding, offering little comfort after a night of restless sleep. Your body already carries the weight of yesterday's labor, your hands rough with calluses, your back stiff from hours bent over in the fields. This is your life, bound to the land, shaped by the relentless rhythm of survival, a rhythm that pulses through every moment of your existence. As you rise, the coolness of the packed dirt floor seeps through your bare feet. You pull on a tunic of coarse hemp, its fibers coarse against your skin, already patched from years of use. The faint light of dawn filters through a small window, covered with oiled paper that softens the world outside into a hazy glow. You step into the open, where the village is just beginning to stir. The air carries the faint tang of wood smoke from early cooking fires, mingling with the earthy smell of wet soil and the subtle bitterness of fermenting millet. From a neighbor's brewing pot, somewhere nearby, a rooster crows, its call sharp but familiar, blending into the quiet hum of village life. Your stomach grumbles, but breakfast is simply a bowl of millet porridge, slightly gritty, warmed over a small fire. If you're lucky, there's a pinch of salt to cut the blandness, but luxuries like meat or fresh vegetables are rare, preserved for festivals or moments of rare abundance. Your village is small, a cluster of earth-walled huts surrounded by fields that stretch toward the horizon. The Yellow River, a wide, muddy ribbon, flows nearby, its waters both a lifeline and a threat. It irrigates the rice paddies that sustain your community, but its floods can sweep away crops, homes, and lives in a single season. You've seen it happen, fields turned to lakes, families left with nothing but the clothes on their backs. The river's unpredictability is a constant presence in your thoughts, a reminder that nature is both your provider and your adversary. Today, though, the river is calm, its surface catching the first glints of sunlight as you make your way to the fields. The path to the paddies is a narrow track, worn smooth by countless footsteps. Your straw sandals, woven by your wife or mother, sink slightly into the damp earth, the mud cool and slick beneath your feet. The fields are a patchwork of flooded plots, the water reflecting the pale sky like a mirror. Rice is the lifeblood of the Han Dynasty, feeding millions, and you are one of countless farmers tasked with coaxing it from the soil. Your tools are simple, a bronze hoe, its edge dulled from years of scraping through dirt, and a wooden rake for leveling the soil. If your family is fortunate, you might share an ox to pull a plow, but more often, it's your own strength that breaks the earth. You wade into the paddy, the cold water lapping at your calves, the mud sucking at your feet with every step. The sensation is familiar, almost comforting in its predictability, but it's also exhausting. A slow drain on your energy that builds with each hour. The work begins in earnest as the sun climbs higher. You bend low, planting rice seedlings in neat rows, your fingers sinking into the muddy water to press each plant into the soil. The motion is repetitive: bend, plant, step. Repeat a rhythm that lulls your mind even as it taxes your body. The sun grows hotter, its heat pressing against your back, your hemp tunic clinging to your skin with sweat. By midday, the air shimmers, the humidity thick enough to feel like a weight in your lungs. You pause briefly, wiping your brow with a dirt-streaked hand, and drink from a gourd filled with river water. The water is cloudy, carrying the faint taste of silt, but it's all you have. You've learned not to think too hard about what might lurk in it. Illness is a risk you can avoid. The fields are not just a workplace, they are your world. Every season brings its own demands. In spring, you prepare the soil, turning it with your hoe, your muscles straining against the earth's resistance. In summer, you weed the paddies, pulling stubborn grasses that threaten to choke the rice. Autumn is the harvest, a race against time to gather the grain before storms or pests can claim it. Winter offers little respite. You repair tools, mend roofs, or dig irrigation channels to prepare for the next cycle. Each task is a link in a chain that binds you to the land, a chain forged by necessity and tradition. You've heard tales of merchants or scholars, of lives spent in cities or courts, but those are distant dreams. Your place is here in the mud, under the vast sky. Taxes are a constant burden, a shadow that looms over every harvest. The Han government demands a portion of your grain, collected by officials who arrive with bamboo scrolls and stern expressions. You measure out the tribute carefully, pouring golden millet or rice into their sacks, knowing that what remains must feed your family through the lean months. Too often, it's not enough. You've seen neighbors forced to borrow from wealthier landowners, sinking into debt that binds them for years. Some, in desperation, sell their children into servitude, a fate you pray to avoid. The officials don't care about your struggles, they speak of the emperor's needs, of armies and roads and distant wars. To them, you are a name on a scroll, a number in a ledger, your life reduced to the grain you produce. Beyond taxes, there's corvée labor, the forced work demanded by the state. Every few years, you're summoned to leave your fields and join a work gang, repairing roads, digging canals, or hauling stones to fortify the Great Wall far to the north. These tasks can last weeks or months, tearing you from your crops at critical times. The journey is grueling long marches under the weight of tools. With only meager rations of millet and dried fish, you sleep on the ground, exposed to wind and rain, your body aching from labor far harder than your usual work. Some men never return, felled by exhaustion or accidents, their families left to fend for themselves. The thought of being called away again gnaws at you, a quiet fear that settles in your chest. Disease is another ever-present threat. The water you drink, drawn from the river or a village well, is often murky, carrying unseen dangers. Fevers spread quickly through the cramped huts. especially in the rainy season when dampness clings to everything. There are no physicians in your village, only local healers who offer herbs and incantations. Sometimes they help, often they don't. You've lost kin to such illnesses as sister who burned with fever, a child who grew weaker each day until they slipped away. The memory lingers, a weight you carry as you work, knowing that any cough or ache could herald something worse. Your diet doesn't help. Millet, occasional greens, and rare scraps of pork leave you lean, but never truly strong, your body vulnerable to the slightest strain. The rhythm of your life is relentless, yet there's a strange comfort in its predictability. You know the feel of the hoe in your hands, the sound of the wind through the reeds, the taste of warm porridge after a long day. The village is a community, bound by shared hardship. Neighbors help one another, whether it's repairing a wall or sharing a handful of grain in lean times. There are moments of connection, a shared laugh over a brewing pot, a quiet moment watching the sunset over the fields. These are fleeting, but they remind you that you are not alone, that your struggle is part of a larger whole. As the day wears on, the sun begins its slow descent, painting the sky in hues of orange and gold. Your body aches, your hands crusted with dirt, but the work is not done. You move to another task, checking the irrigation channels that feed the paddies. The channels are narrow, dug by hand, and they clog easily with silt. You kneel, scooping mud with your hands, the cool water soothing your skin even as it adds to your fatigue. The fields depend on these channels, and a single blockage could mean a failed crop. You work methodically, the repetition almost meditative, your mind drifting as your hands move. The village comes into view as you head back, the huts silhouetted against the fading light. Children play near a fire, their laughter a rare, bright sound. You pass a small shrine, a wooden altar where offerings of rice or incense are left for the ancestors. Filial piety is a cornerstone of your life, a duty that binds you to your family, living and dead. You pause to bow, whispering a prayer for protection, for a good harvest, for the health of your kin. The act is familiar, grounding, a moment of quiet in the midst of toil. But it's also a reminder of the weight you carry, not just for yourself, but for those who came before and those who will. Follow. The sun has dipped below the horizon, and the sky above your village glows with the soft hues of twilight. You stand at the edge of the rice paddies, your hands caked with mud, your hemp tunic damp with the day's sweat and the lingering dampness of the fields. The air cools, carrying the faint scent of straw and the distant murmur of the yellow river. You are a peasant farmer in the Han Dynasty, around 100 BCE, and though the day's labor in the fields is done, your work is far from over. The rhythm of your life, relentless and unyielding, continues as you trudge back toward the cluster of earth-walled huts that make up your village. The weight of survival presses against you, a constant companion. Yet, there is a strange familiarity in this struggle, a cadence that shapes your every moment. As you approach your home, the village is settling into the evening. The soft clatter of wooden bowls and the low chatter of families drift from nearby huts. A fire crackles outside a neighbor's door, its glow casting flickering shadows on the packed earth. You pause to adjust your straw sandals, worn thin from months of trudging through mud and dust. They offer little protection, and your feet ache from the day's work, the soles bruised from stepping on hidden stones in the paddies. You think briefly of repairing the sandals, but that will have to wait. There are other tasks demanding your attention before you can rest. Inside your hut, the air is close, thick with the scent of straw and the faint mustiness of earth walls. Your wife is tending a small fire, stirring a pot of millet porridge that will serve as the evening meal. The firelight dances across her face, illuminating the lines etched by years of labor and worry. Your children, two young ones, sit nearby, mending a torn fishing net with small, careful hands. They are quiet, accustomed to the need for work even at their age. You exchange a few words, a murmured greeting, but there's little energy for conversation. The day has drained you all, and the meal ahead is a necessity, not a moment of leisure. The porridge is served in rough wooden bowls, its texture coarse and its flavor plain, perhaps softened with a handful of wild greens foraged from the riverbank. You eat slowly, the warmth of the food a small comfort against the ache in your bones. The meal is sparse, as always enough to quiet your hunger but not to satisfy it fully. You think of the grain stored in the clay jars buried beneath the floor, carefully rationed to last through the winter. Every kernel is precious, a bulwark against the lean months when the fields lie fallow and the river offers little. You've known winters where the jars ran empty, where families resorted to eating roots or tree bark, their bodies wasting away as the cold tightened its grip. The memory lingers, a quiet dread that shapes every decision you make. After the meal, you turn to the evening's tasks. The irrigation channels that feed the paddies need checking, a job that cannot wait. You take a wooden rake and a gourd of water, stepping back into the cool night air. The village is quieter now, the stars beginning to prick through the darkening sky. The path to the channels is familiar, your feet finding the way almost by instinct. The channels are narrow, dug by hand over years, and they clog easily with silt and debris. You kneel, your hands plunging into the cold water to clear a blockage, the mud slick and heavy between your fingers. The work is methodical, repetitive, and oddly soothing in its simplicity. You focus on the task, letting the world narrow to the feel of the water, the sound of it trickling through the cleared channel, the faint rustle of reeds in the breeze. This task, like so many others, is vital. The paddies depend on a steady flow of water, and a single neglected channel could mean a failed crop. You've seen it happen, fields drying out, rice stalks wilting under the sun, the harvest lost to carelessness or bad luck. The consequences are dire. Hunger, debt, or worse. You work with care, your movements deliberate, your mind half lost in the rhythm of the task. It's a moment of quiet, a rare pause where the weight of your responsibilities feels almost manageable. But the moment is fleeting, and soon you're moving to the next channel, then the next, until the work is done. Back at the hut, another duty awaits, the care of the family shrine. Filial piety, the Confucian principle that binds you to your ancestors, is a cornerstone of your life. The shrine is a small wooden altar in the corner of the hut, adorned with simple offerings: a bowl of rice, a stick of incense, a carved tablet bearing the names of your forebears. You light the incense, its thin smoke curling upward, filling the air with a faint, sweet scent. You bow, whispering prayers for protection, for a good harvest, for the health of your family. The act is solemn, grounding, a reminder of your place in a lineage that stretches back through time. But it's also a burden. Every offering of rice is a sacrifice, a portion of food you cannot eat, a choice between honoring the dead and feeding the living. To neglect this duty risks angering the spirits, inviting misfortune: a failed crop, a sick child, a flood. You cannot afford to take that chance. The village is not without its threats, and as you settle into the evening, the fear of bandits creeps into your thoughts. The Han Dynasty is vast, its army stretched thin, and the countryside is not always safe. Bands of outlaws roam the hills, preying on villages like yours, stealing grain, livestock, or worse. You've heard stories of raids, huts burned, families scattered, lives taken in the chaos. At night, you sleep with a wooden club by your side, its weight a small reassurance. The village organizes watches, with men taking turns to patrol the paths, but everyone knows a determined band could overwhelm you. The fear is a quiet undercurrent, a tension that never fully fades, even in the calm of the night. Community, though, offers some solace. Your neighbors are bound to you by shared hardship, and there are moments of connection that ease the weight of your life. Earlier today, you helped a neighbor repair a damaged wall, your hands working together to pack fresh earth into the cracks. In return, they shared a small bundle of dried fish, a rare treat that your children savored. These acts of mutual aid are unspoken, expected, a thread that holds the village together. There are festivals too, though they are rare moments when the village gathers to honor the harvest or a local deity. Drums and flutes fill the air, and for a few hours the weight of labor lifts. You share a meal, Perhaps with a sip of rice wine and the laughter of children feels like a gift. These moments are brief, but they remind you that your struggle is not yours alone. Yet even these moments are tinged with worry. The harvest is approaching, and with it comes the scrutiny of the tax collectors. The Han government demands its share, and the officials will soon arrive, their bamboo scrolls listing every household's obligations. You've spent weeks calculating how much grain you can spare, how much you need to keep your family alive. The math is unforgiving, too much given to the state, and you face starvation, too little, and you risk punishment. You've heard of farmers flogged for shortfalls, their families stripped of what little they have. The thought keeps you awake at night, your mind turning over numbers even as your body begs for rest. The seasons themselves are a source of both hope and fear. The rice paddies, now green and vibrant, hold the promise of a good harvest, but nothing is certain. A late frost, a swarm of locusts, a flood from the yellow river any could ruin months of work. You've seen it happen, entire villages brought to their knees by nature's whims. Last year, a drought left the fields cracked and barren, and you survived only by foraging wild roots and borrowing grain at a steep price. The work is unending, a cycle that defines your existence. As you clear the last of the irrigation channels, you think of the coming harvest, the grain that will sustain your family and satisfy the emperor's demands. But the fields are not just a source of sustenance, they are a test, a challenge that you meet day after day. The mud clings to your legs, the sun burns your skin, and the weight of your duties presses down. Yet, there is a rhythm to this life, a predictability that carries you forward. You return to the village as the stars brighten, the night air cool against your skin. You eat another bowl of porridge, its warmth a small comfort, and lie on your straw mat. The ache in your body a familiar companion. Sleep comes slowly, but it comes. A brief escape from the fields, from the river, from the life of a Han Dynasty peasant. As the quiet of the night settles over the humble village of our peasant farmer, where the rhythm of life is bound to the fields and the river, we shift our gaze to a far grander stage. Let us drift now to the imperial heart of the Han Dynasty, to the bustling capital of Chang'an, where ambition and power shape the course of an empire. Here, in the shadow of ornate palaces and beneath the weight of a celestial mandate, we find a man whose dreams stretched beyond the horizon, a man whose name would echo through the centuries. This is the story of Emperor Wu, who reigned from 141 to 87 BCE, a ruler whose relentless drive transformed China into a vast and influential empire. His life was one of conquest, reform, and an unyielding quest for immortality. Yet it was also marked by personal struggles and sacrifices. Settle into this tale. Let its steady cadence guide you, and imagine the world through the eyes of a man who sought to shape history itself. You stand, in your mind's eye, within the walls of Chang'an, the capital city of the Han Dynasty. The air is alive with the hum of activity merchants calling out in the markets, the clatter of carts on stone-paved streets, the faint scent of incense drifting from temples. The city is a marvel, its wooden palaces adorned with intricate carvings, their tiled roofs gleaming under the sun. The Weiyang Palace, the heart of imperial power, looms large, its halls filled with the soft rustle of silk robes and the murmur of advisors. This is where Emperor Wu, born Liu Che, began his reign at the tender age of 16. A young man thrust into a role that carried the weight of divine responsibility. To rule was to be the son of heaven, the intermediary between the mortal world and the celestial realm, a burden both glorious and crushing. Liu Che's early years were shaped by the legacy of his predecessors. The Han Dynasty, established in 200 BCE, had brought stability after centuries of warring states, but it was still a young empire, its borders contested, its systems evolving. As a boy, Liu Che was educated in the Confucian classics, his mind sharpened by tutors who spoke of duty, governance, and the harmony of the cosmos. Yet, he was also drawn to tales of military glory, of the great kings who had united vast lands under a single banner. His father, Emperor Jing, had been a cautious ruler, consolidating power and avoiding reckless wars. Liu Che, however, was different. From the moment he ascended the throne, his ambition burned brightly, a fire that would drive him to reshape the Han Dynasty and leave a legacy that endured for centuries. The young emperor's first challenge was the Xiongnu, a nomadic confederation to the north whose raids had plagued the Han for generations. Picture the northern frontier, a vast steppe where the wind howls across endless grasses, where Xiongnu horsemen move like shadows, their bows deadly and their loyalty only to their own. These nomads were not just a threat but a humiliation, extracting tribute from the Han in exchange for uneasy peace. Liu Che, now Emperor Wu, refused to bow to this tradition. He saw the Xiongnu not merely as enemies but as a challenge to his vision of a greater China, a unified empire that stretched beyond the mountains and rivers. His advisors, steeped in Confucian caution, urged restraint, warning of the costs of war, grain, men, and gold. But Wu's ambition was unshakable. He resolved to break the Xiongnu, to secure the borders, and to assert Han dominance. The campaigns began in earnest, a series of expeditions that would define much of Wu's reign. Imagine the preparation. Armies mustered in Chang'an, soldiers clad in leather armor, their spears glinting in the morning light. Supply trains stretched for miles, laden with millet and dried meat to sustain the troops across the harsh northern plains. Wu appointed generals like Wei Qing and Huo Qubing, men whose names would become legends. Wei Qing, a former stable hand raised to prominence by Wu's favor, led with quiet competence, his strategies methodical yet bold. Huo Qubing, young and fearless, charged into battle with a recklessness that inspired his men. Together, they pushed deep into Xiongnu territory, their victories carving out new frontiers for the Han. The campaigns were grueling, a test of endurance for both soldiers and emperor. The northern steppes were unforgiving freezing winters, scorching summers, and vast distances that strained supply lines. You can almost feel the dust in your throat, the ache of marching across endless plains, the tension of waiting for a Xiongnu ambush. Wu himself never rode to battle, but he felt every loss, every setback as a personal wound. Reports arrived on bamboo scrolls detailing victories and defeats, the lives lost to arrows or exhaustion. The emperor poured resources into these wars, taxing the peasantry to the brink. As we saw in the fields of our village, grain stores dwindled and villages like the one we left behind bore the weight of these ambitions. Yet Wu pressed on, driven by a vision of an empire that could not be challenged. Beyond the battlefield, Wu's ambition reshaped the empire's heart. He embraced Confucianism not just as a philosophy, but as a tool of governance, elevating it to the state ideology. Picture the scholars of Chang'an, their robes of silk, their hands stained with ink as they copied texts or debated the classics. Wu established the Imperial Academy, a center for training officials who would carry Confucian principles into every corner of the empire. These men, selected through rigorous exams, became the backbone of his administration, ensuring loyalty to the throne and a unified moral code. The emperor's court became a place of intellectual ferment, where ideas of duty, loyalty, and harmony shaped policy. Yet this was no gentle reform. Wu's embrace of Confucianism was strategic, a way to consolidate power and silence rivals who favored other philosophies, like Taoism or legalism. The emperor's ambition extended to the economy as well. He introduced state monopolies on salt and iron, industries vital to the empire's wealth. Imagine the salt pans along the coast, the air sharp with brine, workers toiling under the sun to scrape crystals from shallow pools. Iron foundries glowed with heat, their bellows pumping as smiths forged tools and weapons. These monopolies filled the imperial coffers, funding Wu's wars and grand projects, but they also sparked resentment. Merchants, once free to profit, now faced state control, and the peasantry felt the sting of higher prices. Wu's reforms were bold, but they came at a cost, one paid by those far from the palaces of Chang'an. The emperor's personal life was no less complex. As a young ruler, Wu navigated a court filled with intrigue. His grandmother, the Dowager Empress Du, wielded significant influence, her preference for Taoism clashing with Wu's Confucian leanings. You can picture the tension in the palace halls, the careful words exchanged between the young emperor and his formidable grandmother. Wu's mother, Empress Wang, and his uncles also vied for power, their factions whispering in the shadows. The emperor learned early to balance loyalty and ruthlessness, rewarding allies like Wei King while exiling or executing those who threatened his authority. Every decision was a step on a tightrope, the weight of the empire resting on his choices. Wu's ambition was not without personal cost. His obsession with immortality, a dream shared by many rulers, grew stronger with time. Picture the emperor in his private chambers, surrounded by alchemists and Taoist priests, their robes embroidered with mystic symbols. They spoke of elixirs, of mercury and herbs that could grant eternal life. Wu listened, his mind captivated by the promise of transcending mortality, of ruling forever as the Son of Heaven. He sent expeditions to distant lands, seeking mythical islands where immortals dwelled. These quests were costly, draining resources and lives, yet they fed Wu's vision of a legacy that would outlast time itself. The emperor's family life was equally fraught. His first wife, Empress Chen, was beloved but childless, a source of tension in a court that valued heirs. Wu's favor later turned to Wei Zaifu, a singer who rose to become empress, bearing him sons, including the future Emperor Zhao. Yet the court was a web of rivalries, with consorts and their families vying for influence. Wu's love for Wei Zaifu did not shield her from intrigue. Accusations of witchcraft and betrayal swirled, threatening her position. The emperor, for all his power, could not escape the personal toll of his ambitions. Loves lost, trusts broken, and a constant vigilance against betrayal. As we linger in Chang'an, the city's grandeur is undeniable, yet it is built on the labor of millions, like the peasant we left behind in the village. Wu's wars, his reforms, his dreams of immortality all rested on the grain harvested from those muddy fields, the taxes collected from those weary hands. The emperor's ambition was a flame that illuminated the Han Dynasty, but it also cast long shadows, touching every corner of the empire. As we prepare to move forward, let us hold this image: a young ruler standing in the Weiyang Palace, his eyes fixed on a map of his empire, dreaming of conquest and eternity. While far away the fields of his people bear the weight of his vision, the halls of the Weiyang Palace in Chang'an stand silent now, the echoes of Emperor Wu's commands fading into the night. You can almost hear the soft rustle of silk robes as advisors move through the corridors, their bamboo scrolls tucked under their arms, their faces lit by the flickering glow of oil lamps. We are still in the heart of the Han Dynasty, around 100 BCE, following the life of Emperor Wu, Liu Che, whose ambition reshaped an empire. His reign, stretching from 141 to 87 BCE, was a time of conquest, reform, and dreams that reached beyond the mortal world. As we linger in this story, let the steady rhythm of his life, its triumphs, its costs, its quiet moments of reflection carry you deeper into the past, a soothing current that invites you to relax and drift. The emperor's ambition was a fire that burned brightly, but like all fires, it consumed as much as it illuminated. Emperor Wu's vision for the Han Dynasty was not limited to the battlefield, though his wars against the Xiongnu nomads defined much of his early reign. Picture the northern frontier once more, the endless steppe, the dust kicked up by galloping horses, the taut strings of Xiongnu bows. Wu's generals, Wei King and Huo Qubing, led campaign after campaign, pushing deeper into the steppe than any Han army had before. These were not mere skirmishes, but vast undertakings requiring thousands of men, horses, and carts laden with supplies. The emperor pored over reports in Chang'an, his fingers tracing maps etched on silk, each victory a step toward his dream of a secure empire. Yet each campaign drained the treasury, the granaries, and the lives of soldiers drawn from villages across the land. The peasant we left behind, toiling in the rice paddies, felt the weight of these wars and the taxes that stripped his harvest bare. The cost of these campaigns was not just material. Wu's ambition demanded loyalty, and he rewarded his generals handsomely. elevating men like Wei Qing from humble origins to positions of power. Wei Qing's sister, Wei Zaifu, became Wu's empress, a union that tied the military to the throne. Yet loyalty was a fragile thing in the imperial court. Imagine the tension in the palace, the whispered plots among advisors and consorts. Wu faced betrayals, real and imagined, from those closest to him. One such betrayal came from his own cousin Liuan, the Prince of Weinan, who was accused of plotting rebellion. The emperor, ever vigilant, ordered investigations, and Liuan's fate, whether exile or death, served as a warning to others. The court was a place of splendor, but it was also a labyrinth of intrigue, where every word carried hidden meanings. Wu's ambition extended beyond military conquest to the very fabric of the empire. His economic reforms were as bold as his wars. The state monopolies on salt and iron, introduced early in his reign, transformed the Han economy. Picture the coastal salt pans where workers labored under the sun, their hands raw from scraping crystals from shallow pools. The air was sharp with brine, the heat relentless, yet the salt they produced was a treasure, used to preserve food and traded across the empire. Iron foundries, too, were hives of activity, blacksmiths hammering molten metal, their faces glowing in the heat of the furnaces. These industries, controlled by the state, filled the imperial coffers, funding Wu's armies and his grand projects. But they came at a cost. Merchants grumbled at the loss of their profits, and peasants faced higher prices for essential goods. The emperor's vision was grand, but it rested on the labor of those far below him. The emperor's embrace of Confucianism was perhaps his most enduring legacy. In the halls of the Imperial Academy, scholars gathered, their robes of silk brushing the floor as they debated the classics. Wu saw in Confucianism a way to unify his empire, to instill a shared moral code that would bind its diverse peoples. He expanded the examination system, a rigorous process that tested candidates on their knowledge of Confucian texts. Those who passed became scholar officials, sent to govern distant provinces or advise the throne. Picture a young scholar hunched over a bamboo scroll, his brush moving carefully as he memorizes passages from the Analects. The exams were grueling, lasting days, and failure meant disgrace or a return to obscurity. Wu's support for this system created a meritocracy, but it also ensured loyalty, as these officials owed their positions to the emperor's favor. Yet Confucianism was not just a tool of governance, it was a philosophy that shaped Wu's worldview. He saw himself as the son of heaven, responsible for maintaining harmony between the earth and the cosmos. This belief drove his obsession with immortality, a dream that grew stronger as he aged. Imagine the emperor in his private chambers, surrounded by Taoist priests and alchemists, their voices low as they speak of elixirs and mystic islands. The air is heavy with the scent of burning herbs, the flicker of candles casting shadows on walls adorned with silk tapestries. Wu listened eagerly, funding expeditions to seek the fabled Penglai Islands, where immortals were said to dwell. These quests were costly, sending ships into the eastern seas, their crews facing storms and starvation. The promise of eternal life was a siren's call, one that Wu could not resist, even as it drained his resources and distracted him from the empire's needs. The emperor's personal life was a tapestry of triumphs and tragedies. His marriage to Wei Zaifu brought him sons, including Liu Ju, his heir. Yet the court was a battleground of rivalries, with consorts and their families vying for influence. Empress Wei faced accusations of witchcraft, a charge that could destroy even the most powerful. Wu, torn between love and suspicion, navigated these conflicts with a heavy heart. His eldest son, Liu Ju, would later face his own tragedy, accused of treason in a plot that shook the court. The emperor's ambition demanded a stable succession, but his family was fractured by the same intrigues that defined his rule. You can picture Wu alone in his chambers, the weight of his decisions pressing down, his dreams of immortality tempered by the reality of human fragility. The emperor's reforms extended to the Silk Road, a network that would come to define his legacy, though we will explore its origins in greater detail later. Wu's role in its beginnings cannot be overstated. He sent envoys like Zhang Jin to the western regions, forging alliances with distant kingdoms and opening trade routes that carried silk, jade, and ideas across continents. Imagine the caravans winding through the desert, their camels laden with goods, the air thick with dust and the promise of wealth. These expeditions were perilous, with travelers facing bandits, thirst, and the vastness of the Taklamakan desert. Wu's vision of a connected world was bold, but it required immense resources, drawn from the labor of peasants and the wealth of the empire. As Wu aged, his ambition began to take its toll. The wars against the Xiongnu, though successful, drained the treasury. The monopolies on salt and iron sparked unrest, and the heavy taxes burdened the peasantry. As we saw in the village by the Yellow River, Wu's quest for immortality led to costly experiments and expeditions, with alchemists producing elixirs that sometimes poisoned rather than preserved. The emperor's health declined, his body weakened by years of relentless drive. Yet he pressed on, driven by a vision that refused to fade. His court remained a place of splendor, with poets composing verses and musicians playing delicate melodies on the guqin. But beneath the surface, cracks were forming. The emperor's legacy is a paradox. He expanded the Han Dynasty to its greatest extent, securing borders and fostering trade that would shape the world for centuries. His embrace of Confucianism laid the foundation for a system of governance that endured long after his death. Yet his ambition came at a cost: lives lost in war, villages taxed to the breaking point, a court driven by intrigue. As we leave Wu's story, imagine him standing on the balcony of the Weiyang Palace, gazing out over Chang'an. The city sparkles under the stars, a testament to his vision. But the fields beyond its walls tell another story, one of toil and sacrifice. The emperor's ambition was a flame that lit the Han Dynasty, but it was fueled by the labor of millions, their lives woven into the fabric of his empire. As we drift away from the gilded halls of Chang'an and the towering ambitions of Emperor Wu, we step into a different realm of the Han Dynasty, one that stretches far beyond the borders of China, across deserts and mountains to distant lands unknown to the farmers toiling in their fields. Tonight, we unravel the enigma of the Silk Road, a network of trade routes that wove together east and west, carrying silk, jade, and spices across continents. Its beginnings, shrouded in the dust of history, are a puzzle that still captivates scholars and archaeologists. How did this vast web of commerce and culture come to be? What drove men to brave the perilous deserts and treacherous passes to connect empires? Let us settle into this mystery, letting its quiet allure draw us into a world of ancient caravans and forgotten outposts, a story told in a soothing cadence that invites you to relax, to wonder, and to drift. Picture yourself standing at the edge of Chang'an, the Han capital, sometime around 130 BCE. The city hums with life merchants bartering in the markets, their voices rising over the clatter of carts, the faint scent of sandalwood incense drifting from a nearby temple. Beyond the city's towering walls, the land opens into a vast expanse, where fields give way to rolling hills and, further still, to the arid stretches of the northwest. This is where the Silk Road begins, not as a single path, but as a network of trails, winding through the Gobi Desert, over the Tianshan Mountains, and into the distant realms of Central Asia. The air here is dry, carrying the faint grit of dust, and the horizon seems to stretch forever, a promise of both opportunity and peril. The Silk Road was not born in a single moment, nor was it the creation of one man, though Emperor Wu's vision played a pivotal role. To understand its origins, we must travel back to the early years of his reign, when the Han Dynasty sought to secure its borders against the Xiongnu nomads. Wu, as we saw, was a ruler driven by ambition, unwilling to tolerate the raids that plagued his northern frontier. But conquest alone was not enough. He sought allies, kingdoms beyond the steppe that could weaken the Xiongnu and strengthen the Han. This is where our story begins, with a man named Zhang Jin, an envoy sent by Wu on a mission that would change the course of history. Imagine Zhang Jin, a diplomat of the Han court, standing before the emperor in the Weiyang Palace. His robes are simple but well made, his demeanor calm yet resolute. In 139 BCE, Wu tasked him with a daunting mission: to travel west through Xiongnu territory, to seek an alliance with the Yuezhi, a nomadic people displaced by the Xiongnu and rumored to dwell in the far reaches of Central Asia. Zhang Qian's journey was not just a diplomatic errand, it was a leap into the unknown, a venture into lands few Han Chinese had ever seen. As he set out from Chang'an, his caravan was small, a handful of guards, a few pack animals laden with gifts of silk and jade, and scrolls bearing the emperor's seal. The road ahead was treacherous, a path through deserts where the sun scorched the earth and nights brought freezing cold. Zhang Qian's journey quickly turned perilous. Picture the caravan moving slowly across the Gobi Desert, the sand shifting beneath their feet, the air thick with dust that clings to their skin and stings their eyes. The Xiongnu, ever watchful, captured Zhang Jin and his men before they could reach their destination. For 10 years, he was held captive, living among the nomads, learning their ways, the taste of fermented mare's milk, the rhythm of their herds moving across the steppe. Yet Zhang Jin never forgot his mission. He escaped, his resolve unbroken, and continued westward, driven by duty and the emperor's command. His journey took him to the Fergana Valley, to the bustling markets of Bactria, where he encountered peoples and goods unlike any in China, horses of remarkable strength, glassware that gleamed like crystal, and spices that carried the scent of distant lands. Zhang Qian's reports, when he finally returned to Chang'an in 126 BCE, were a revelation. He spoke of kingdoms like Dayuan and Parthia, of cities where traders exchanged goods from across the known world. His tale sparked a vision in Emperor Wu, a vision of a connected empire, where Han silk could flow westward and exotic goods could return to enrich the court. This was the seed of the Silk Road, not a single moment of creation but a gradual unfolding, driven by diplomacy, trade, and the courage of men like Zhang Jin. The emperor acted swiftly, sending more envoys, establishing outposts, and securing trade routes through military campaigns. The Silk Road began to take shape, a network that would carry not just goods but ideas, religions, and cultures across continents. The goods that traveled these routes were as varied as the lands they crossed. Imagine a caravan setting out from Chang'an, its camels laden with bolts of silk, their fibers so fine they shimmer in the sunlight. Silk was the Han Dynasty's greatest treasure, prized for its softness and rarity. It was not just cloth, but a symbol of wealth, a currency that opened doors in distant courts. Alongside silk went jade, carved into intricate ornaments, its cool surface a contrast to the desert's heat. In return, the caravans brought back treasures of their own Fergana horses, swift and strong, coveted by Wu for his armies. Grapes and pomegranates, their sweetness and novelty in the Han diet, and glass beads, their colors catching the light in ways that fascinated the court. The journey along the Silk Road was fraught with danger. Picture the Taklamakan Desert, a vast sea of sand where dunes shift with the wind, erasing paths and swallowing the unwary. The name Taklamakan, meaning go in and you won't come out, was a warning to travelers. Caravans moved from oasis to oasis, small pockets of green where date palms and springs offered respite. The air was dry, the sun relentless, and the nights bitterly cold. Bandits lurked in the shadows, ready to ambush a poorly guarded caravan, their blades glinting in the moonlight. Disease was a constant threat, spread by contaminated water or the close quarters of trade posts. Yet the promise of profit drove merchants forward, their footsteps tracing troops of the sand, marking the beginnings of a trade route that would span centuries. Archaeological discoveries have shed light on this ancient network. In the Dunhuang caves, along the edge of the Gobi Desert, archaeologists found manuscripts and paintings that hint at the Silk Road's early days. Picture the caves, carved into soft sandstone cliffs, their interiors adorned with Buddhist murals depicting traders and monks. Scrolls found within, written in Chinese and Sogdian, detailed trade agreements and travel logs, offering glimpses of a world in motion. These finds are not definitive but suggestive, pointing to a network that grew organically, driven by human ambition and curiosity. The caves themselves, a spiritual and commercial hub, were a testament to the cultural exchange the Silk Road fostered Buddhist monks from India, Sogdian traders from Central Asia, and Han merchants, all meeting in a shared space. The mystery of the Silk Road's beginnings lies in its gradual emergence. Was it Zhang Qian's journeys that sparked it? Or were earlier traders already forging paths through the desert? Some scholars argue that trade routes existed long before the Han, with nomadic peoples exchanging goods across the steppe. Others point to Wu's deliberate efforts to secure the West, suggesting that the Silk Road was a state-driven enterprise. The truth likely lies in a combination of these forces: individual merchants seeking profit, nomads facilitating exchange, and an emperor's ambition to connect his empire to the world. The archaeological record is incomplete, with many sites buried beneath centuries of sand, yet each discovery a jade pendant in a Central Asian tomb. A Roman coin in a Chinese village adds a piece to the puzzle. The Silk Road was more than a trade route, it was a conduit for ideas. Imagine a Buddhist monk traveling east, his robes dusty from the journey, carrying scrolls that would introduce new philosophies to China, or a Sogdian trader, his pack filled with glassware, sharing stories of distant gods and kings. The Silk Road brought Zoroastrianism, Nestorian Christianity, and eventually Islam to China, their ideas mingling with Confucian and Taoist thought. This cultural exchange was subtle but profound, shaping art, religion, and technology across continents. The Han Dynasty, under Wu's reign, became a crossroads of the world. Its influence felt far beyond its borders. As we linger on this mystery, consider the caravans moving silently through the desert, their bells jingling softly in the night. The Silk Road was a testament to human resilience, to the drive to connect despite distance and danger. Its beginnings are not a single story, but a tapestry of countless journeys, each step preserved in the artifacts and stories that have survived the centuries. Let this image carry you forward, a quiet procession under a starlit sky, as we prepare to explore the final chapter of our journey. Through the Han Dynasty, the desert night stretches out before you, vast and silent, the stars above casting a faint glow over the dunes of the Taklamakan. You can almost hear the soft jingle of camel bells, the creak of wooden carts, and the low murmur of traders as they huddle around a fire in a distant oasis. We are still in the Han Dynasty, around 130 BCE, unraveling the enigma of the Silk Road's beginnings, a network that connected the bustling capital of Chang'an to the far-flung markets of Central Asia and beyond. This is a story of human ambition, of paths forged through peril, and of a world slowly knitting itself together through trade and ideas. As we delve deeper into this mystery, let the steady rhythm of the narrative carry you, its details unfolding like the slow steps of a caravan, inviting you to relax, to wonder, and to drift into the quiet expanse of history. The Silk Road, as we left it, was taking shape through the efforts of men like Zhang Jin, whose perilous journey to the west opened the Han Dynasty's eyes to distant lands. But the road was not a single creation, nor was it solely the work of the Han. It was a web of paths, some ancient, others newly forged, woven together by countless travelers, merchants, nomads, monks, and envoys. To understand its beginnings, we must linger in the landscapes that defined it, from the arid wastes of the Gobi to the fertile valleys of Fergana. Picture yourself at a desert oasis, a small cluster of date palms and a spring bubbling up from the earth. The air is cool now, the heat of the day fading, and the scent of dust mingles with the faint sweetness of ripe fruit. Traders gather here, their faces weathered, their voices a mix of languages: Chinese, Sogdian, Tocharian, each telling stories of the goods they carry and the dangers they faced. The goods themselves were the lifeblood of the Silk Road, each item a thread in the tapestry of trade. From Chang'an came silk, its delicate fibers rolled into bolts that shimmered in the sunlight, soft as a whisper against the skin. Silk was not just cloth, but a marvel, prized by kings and nobles in lands as far as Rome. You can imagine a merchant carefully unpacking a bolt, its surface catching the light, as he barters with a Parthian trader for glassware or spices. Jade, too, was a treasure, its cool green surface carved into ornaments that symbolized purity and power. These goods were packed onto camels, their humps swaying under the weight. As caravans set out from the Han capital, their paths winding through the Hexi corridor, a narrow strip of land flanked by mountains and desert. The return journey brought wonders to China. Picture a caravan arriving in Chang'an, its animals weary but laden with treasures, Fergana horses, their coats gleaming. Renowned for their speed and strength, pomegranates and grapes, their juices a burst of sweetness unfamiliar to the Han palate, and woolen textiles, dyed in vibrant hues, a contrast to the muted tones of hemp and silk. These goods were not just objects but symbols of a world beyond the empire's borders, a world that Emperor Wu sought to draw closer through trade and diplomacy. The markets of Chang'an buzzed with excitement as merchants displayed their wares, their stalls filled with the scents of cinnamon and saffron, the glint of gold and glass. Each item told a story of a journey, of weeks or months spent crossing deserts and mountains, of risks taken for the promise of profit. The dangers of the Silk Road were ever present, a constant undercurrent in the lives of those who traveled it. Imagine a caravan moving through the Taklamakan desert, the sun stretching endlessly in every direction, the air so dry it cracks your lips. The sun beats down, its heat a weight that presses against your skin, while at night, the cold is sharp, seeping through even the thickest blankets. Water was scarce, carried in leather skins that grew lighter with each day. A single misstep, a lost oasis, a broken axle could spell disaster. Bandits were a constant threat, their silhouettes appearing on the horizon, their motives as unpredictable as the desert winds. Some were nomads, others desperate travelers, but all were drawn by the wealth of the caravans. A successful raid could mean riches, a failed defense could mean lives lost, their bodies left to the sands. Disease, too, stalked the Silk Road, the close quarters of trade posts where travelers shared food and shelter, were breeding grounds for illness. Picture a merchant, his face pale, coughing as he rests by a fire. The water from an oasis might be tainted, carrying fevers that spread quickly among a weary caravan. There were no physicians in these remote outposts, only local remedies, herbs or prayers that offered little protection. The toll of disease was a grim reality, one that traders accepted as part of the journey. Yet the promise of wealth drove them forward, their footsteps marking paths that would endure for centuries. Archaeological discoveries have illuminated the Silk Road's early days, offering tantalizing clues to its origins. The Dunhuang Caves, carved into the cliffs along the Gobi's edge, are a treasure trove of history. Imagine standing before one of these caves, its entrance a dark hollow in the sandstone, its interior cool and shadowed. The walls are adorned with Buddhist murals, their colors faded but still vibrant images of traders, monks and celestial beings, their faces serene. Scrolls found within, written in Chinese, Sogdian and Sanskrit, detailed trade agreements, travel itineraries and religious texts. These documents, brittle with age, speak of a world in motion where goods and ideas flowed freely. A merchant's ledger might list bolts of silk traded for horses, while a monk's diary describes a journey to India, seeking Buddhist scriptures. Other sites tell similar stories. In the Turfan Basin, archaeologists uncovered the ruins of ancient trade posts, their mud brick walls crumbling but still standing. Here, they found clay seals stamped with Chinese characters, evidence of Han officials overseeing trade. A single seal, small enough to fit in your palm, might bear the name of a governor appointed by Emperor Wu, tasked with securing the western routes. These finds are not definitive answers, but pieces of a puzzle, suggesting a network that grew through both state ambition and individual enterprise. The discovery of a Roman glass bead in a Han village or a Chinese coin in a Central Asian tomb hints at the vast distances these goods traveled, each item a testament to the Silk Road's reach. The mystery of the Silk Road's beginnings lies in its organic growth. Was it Zhang Qian's diplomatic missions that sparked it? Or were traders already crossing the steppe, following ancient paths used by nomads? Some scholars point to the Han's military campaigns, which secured the Hexi corridor and made trade safer. Others argue that the Silk Road predates the Han, its roots in the nomadic exchanges of the Bronze Age. Picture a Xiongnu trader, his horse laden with furs, bartering with a Sogdian merchant for jade long before Wu's reign. These early exchanges, small and scattered, laid the groundwork for the vast network that would emerge. The Han Dynasty, under Wu's direction, gave it structure, turning a web of trails into a conduit for empire. The cultural impact of the Silk Road was profound, a slow blending of worlds that left its mark on art, religion, and technology. Imagine a Buddhist monk, his robes dusty from months of travel, arriving in Chang'an with scrolls of sutras. Buddhism, born in India, found a home in China through these routes, its teachings spreading to monasteries and villages. The Dunhuang caves, with their murals of bodhisattvas and lotus flowers, are a testament to this exchange, a fusion of Indian spirituality and Chinese artistry. Zoroastrianism, Nestorian Christianity, and later Islam followed similar paths, their ideas carried by traders and missionaries. A Sogdian merchant might share tales of fire worship, his words sparking curiosity in a Han scholar, while a Chinese bronze mirror, its surface etched with dragons, might find its way to a Parthian noble. Technology, too, flowed along the Silk Road. The Chinese art of papermaking, still in its infancy during the Han, would later travel west, transforming how knowledge was shared. In return, the Han learned of new crops, grapes, alfalfa, walnuts that enriched their agriculture. Picture a farmer in a Han village tasting a pomegranate for the first time, its seeds bursting with flavor, a gift from a distant land. These exchanges were slow, their impact unfolding over generations, but they reshaped the world in ways that Emperor Wu could scarcely have imagined. The Silk Road was not just a route for goods but a bridge between cultures, its paths carrying the seeds of change. The mystery of the Silk Road's beginnings is not one with a single answer. It was born from the ambition of an emperor, the courage of envoys like Zhang Jin, and the countless traders who braved the unknown for profit. It was shaped by the landscapes they crossed, deserts, mountains, oases, and by the peoples who met along the way. Each archaeological find, from a silk fragment in a Bactrian tomb to a Buddhist statue in a desert cave, adds a layer to the story, but the full truth remains elusive, buried in the sands of time. As we leave this segment, picture the caravan moving on, its lanterns glowing faintly in the desert night, a symbol of humanity's drive to connect, to explore, to endure. As we leave behind the vast deserts and bustling trade routes of the Silk Road, we return to the heart of the Han Dynasty, to the imperial capital of Chang'an, where the air is filled with the soft clink of jade ornaments and the rustle of silk robes. Here, in the shadow of the Weiyang Palace, we step into a world far removed from the muddy fields of the peasant farmer, or the perilous journeys of traders. This is the life of a scholar official, a privileged figure who has risen through intellect and perseverance to serve the emperor and shape the empire. Imagine yourself in this refined world, where the rhythm of life is one of study, duty, and subtle power, yet not without its own pressures and perils. Let this story unfold slowly, its details wrapping around you like the gentle folds of a silk scroll, inviting you to relax, to listen, and to drift into the elegance and complexity of the Han elite. Picture yourself waking in a residence in Chang'an, sometime around 100 BCE. Your home is a tiled-roof courtyard house, its wooden beams carved with delicate patterns of clouds and dragons. The air is cool, carrying the faint scent of sandalwood from a small incense burner in the corner. Your bed is not the straw mat of a peasant, but a low wooden platform, cushioned with silk-stuffed bedding, its surface smooth and inviting. You rise, your body free from the aches of manual labor, and don a robe of fine silk, its deep blue or crimson hue a mark of your status. The fabric is soft, almost weightless, a stark contrast to the coarse hemp worn by the farmers in the distant villages. As you step into the courtyard, the morning light filters through a screen of bamboo, casting dappled shadows on the stone floor. A servant, silent and deferential, brings you a cup of warmed tea, its aroma delicate and floral. a small luxury that sets the tone for your day. Your life as a scholar official begins with the mind, not the body. You have earned this position through years of grueling study, mastering the Confucian classics texts like the Analects, the Book of Rites, and the Classic of Poetry. These works, written on bamboo strips or silk scrolls, are the foundation of your education, their words shaping your understanding of duty, morality, and governance. Imagine yourself as a young man, perhaps a decade ago, hunched over a low table in a dim room, your brush moving carefully across a scroll as you memorized passages by candlelight. The imperial examinations were the gateway to this life, a series of tests that lasted days, sometimes weeks, held in the capital or a provincial center. The exams were relentless, requiring you to compose essays, analyze texts, and demonstrate a command of Confucian principles. Failure meant returning to obscurity, perhaps to a life not unlike the peasants. Success meant a place in the emperor's service, a role that carried both privilege and responsibility. This morning, your duties call you to the imperial bureaucracy, a vast machine that keeps the Han Dynasty running. You leave your residence, stepping into the streets of Chang'an. The city is a marvel, its avenues wide and bustling, lined with shops selling silk, jade, and lacquered goods. The air carries the hum of voices, merchants heckling, scholars debating, the occasional clatter of a horse-drawn cart. You make your way to the administrative halls, a complex of wooden buildings within the palace grounds. The halls are grand, their pillars painted red, their roofs curved upward like the wings of a bird. Inside, the air is cool, scented with ink and the faint mustiness of bamboo scrolls. You join other officials, their robes as fine as yours, their faces composed but alert, aware of the emperor's ever-watchful gaze. Your role as a scholar official is varied, a blend of intellectual rigor and practical governance. Today, you might be tasked with drafting an edict, a proclamation to be sent to a distant province. You sit at a low desk, a brush in hand, its bristles dipped in black ink made from pine soot. The words must be precise, their tone reflecting the emperor's authority and the Confucian ideals of harmony and order. You write of tax collections, of roads to be repaired, of grain to be stored for the coming winter. Each stroke of your brush is deliberate, the characters flowing in neat columns, a testament to years of practice. The edict will be copied, sealed, and carried by couriers to villages like the one we visited, where peasants will feel its impact in the grain they must surrender. Your work is not just administrative but intellectual. Confucianism, elevated by Emperor Wu, is the guiding principle of the empire, and you are its steward. You might spend part of your day in a debate, gathered with other scholars in a hall lined with scrolls. Picture the scene, a long table, cups of tea steaming gently, the air filled with the soft cadence of voices reciting Confucian maxims. The topic might be the proper conduct of officials or the balance between mercy and justice in governance. You argue with care, your words measured, citing passages from the classics to support your point. These debates are not just academic, they shape policy, influence the emperor, and determine the fate of provinces. Your voice carries weight, but it also carries risk. One misstep, one poorly chosen word, could draw the emperor's displeasure. The emperor's court is a place of both opportunity and danger. You serve at the pleasure of Emperor Wu, whose ambition we explored, a ruler whose vision is as inspiring as it is demanding. To be a scholar official is to walk a delicate path, balancing loyalty to the throne with the moral imperatives of Confucianism. You've heard stories of officials exiled or executed for speaking out of turn, their families stripped of status. The court is a web of alliances and rivalries, with factions vying for influence, consorts, generals, even eunuchs, all seeking the emperor's ear. You navigate this world with caution, your words polite but guarded, your actions calculated to maintain favor. Yet there is pride in your role. You are part of the empire's backbone, a keeper of its order, a shaper of its future. Your life is one of relative luxury, a stark contrast to the peasant's toil. Your meals are varied and refined, steamed rice, perhaps with slices of pork or fish, flavored with ginger and soy. You sip tea from a delicate cup, its warmth soothing as you read or write. Your home is a haven, its courtyard filled with the soft rustle of bamboo and the scent of flowering plum trees. Servants tend to your needs, cleaning, cooking, and carrying messages to colleagues. Yet this comfort comes with expectations. Your status depends on your performance, on your ability to uphold the Confucian ideals of virtue and wisdom. A single mistake, a poorly drafted edict, a lapse in protocol could lead to demotion or exile. Your family's future hanging in the balance. The intellectual demands of your role are relentless. Beyond drafting edicts and debating policy, you might be tasked with compiling records, a task that requires meticulous care. The Han Dynasty values history, and you contribute to the Shiji, the great historical work begun by Sima Jin. Picture yourself in an archive, surrounded by stacks of bamboo strips, their surfaces crowded with characters. You read reports from distant provinces, accounts of harvests, rebellions, or Xiongnu raids. Your task is to synthesize these into a coherent narrative, a record that will guide future rulers. The work is slow, the air heavy with the scent of ink and wood, but it is vital a way to preserve the empire's story for generations. Your days are long, but they are not without moments of beauty. In the evening, you might attend a gathering of scholars where poetry and music fill the air. Imagine a pavilion overlooking a garden, its lanterns casting a soft glow. A musician plays the guqin, its strings producing a delicate, haunting melody. You recite a poem, perhaps one you've composed, its lines evoking the beauty of the Yellow River or the harmony of a well-governed state. These moments are a respite, a chance to connect with others who share your world. Yet even here, the weight of duty lingers. You must uphold your reputation, your words a reflection of your learning and character. The pressure to maintain moral standards is ever present. Confucianism demands that you be a model of virtue, a beacon of righteousness for the empire. You strive to embody filial piety, honoring your parents with offerings at the family shrine, just as the peasant did, though your offerings are more lavish: fine rice, perhaps a small jade figurine. You also guide your household, ensuring your children study the classics, preparing them for their own exams. The expectations are heavy, a constant reminder that your privilege is not a gift but a responsibility. To falter is to risk not just your own status but your family's legacy. As the night deepens, you return to your residence, the city of Chang'an quieting around you. The streets are dark now, lit only by the occasional lantern, the air cool and scented with jasmine. You sit in your study, a scroll open before you, the brush in your hand poised over a blank sheet. The day's work lingers in your mind, edicts drafted, debates won or lost, the emperor's expectations weighing on you. Yet there is a satisfaction in this life, a sense of purpose in serving the empire, in shaping its course through words and wisdom. The contrast with the peasant's life is stark, yet both are bound to the same empire. Two sides of the Han Dynasty's vast tapestry. The night has settled over Chang'an, the Han Dynasty's vibrant capital. Its streets now quiet save for the occasional flicker of a lantern, or the soft patter of a night watchman's steps. You are a scholar official, a privileged figure in this world of silk, and ink your life a stark contrast to the peasant. Toil in the muddy fields or the trader's perilous journeys along the Silk Road. Your days are filled with the weight of duty, the elegance of Confucian ideals, and the subtle dance of court politics. As you sit in your study, the air scented with the faint musk of ink, and the glow of a single candle casting shadows on the wooden walls. Let this story unfold gently, its details weaving a tapestry of refinement and responsibility. This is a world of quiet power where every word and action carries consequence, yet its rhythm is steady, soothing, inviting you to relax and drift into the serene cadence of history. Your residence in Chang'an is a haven of comfort, a far cry from the packed earth huts of the countryside. Picture the courtyard outside your study, its stone paths lined with slender bamboo that sways gently in the evening breeze. The air carries the delicate fragrance of plum blossoms, a reminder of the season's quiet beauty. Your home is spacious, its rooms divided by intricately carved screens. their surfaces depicting scenes of mountains and rivers. The floors are polished wood, cool underfoot, and the walls are adorned with scrolls of calligraphy, their characters praising virtue or nature's harmony. Your bed, unlike the peasant's straw mat, is a low platform cushioned with silk, its softness a small luxury that eases the day's tensions. Yet this comfort is not without its price. Your position demands constant vigilance, a mind sharpened by years of study and a heart steeled against the intrigues of the court. Your mornings begin with ritual, a reflection of the Confucian principles that guide your life. You rise early, the dawn light filtering through a paper-covered window, its soft glow illuminating your chamber. A servant brings you a basin of warm water, scented with herbs, and you wash carefully, preparing for the day's duties. Your robe, a flowing garment of deep green silk embroidered with subtle patterns of clouds, is a symbol of your status, its weight light, but its significance heavy. Breakfast is a refined affair, steamed rice with slices of tender pork, perhaps a few pickled plums, and a cup of tea brewed from leaves grown in the southern provinces. The tea's aroma is floral, its taste a gentle warmth that lingers on your tongue. As you eat, you review a scroll, perhaps a report from a provincial governor or a passage from the Book of Rites, preparing your mind for the day's work. Your role as a scholar official is multifaceted, a blend of administration, scholarship, and diplomacy. Today, you might be summoned to the Weiyang Palace, the heart of the Han government, to present a memorial to Emperor Wu. Picture the journey through Chang'an's streets, the air alive with the hum of merchants and the clatter of carts. The palace looms ahead, its red pillars and curved roofs a testament to imperial grandeur. Inside, the halls are cool, scented with incense and the faint mustiness of bamboo scrolls. You join other officials, their robes a cascade of colors: crimson, indigo, jade, each manicord in the empire's machinery. The emperor himself is a distant figure, seated on a throne adorned with dragons, his presence commanding yet enigmatic. Your memorial, carefully composed, might propose a new tax policy or suggest repairs to a canal damaged by floods. You speak with measured words, citing Confucian texts to frame your argument, aware that every syllable is scrutinized by the emperor and his advisors. The court is a world of subtle power, where influence is gained through intellect and lost through carelessness. You navigate this world with care, your every interaction a delicate balance. Picture a conversation with a fellow official, perhaps a rival, over a cup of tea in a quiet pavilion. The air is warm, the scent of jasmine drifting from the garden, but the words you exchange are laced with strategy. You praise his recent edict, but your tone hints at a suggestion for improvement, a way to align it with Confucian ideals. He responds with equal care, his smile polite, but his eyes sharp. Such exchanges are common, a dance of words that can elevate or ruin a career. You've heard tales of officials exiled to distant provinces, their families disgraced, for a single misstep, a poorly timed critique, a failure to anticipate the emperor's mood. The weight of this knowledge shapes your every action, a quiet pressure that never fully fades. Beyond the court, your duties extend to the broader empire. You might be tasked with inspecting a province, a journey that takes you far from Chang'an's comforts. Imagine traveling by horse-drawn cart, the road winding through fields and hills, the air thick with the scent of ripening millet. You visit villages like the one we saw, where peasants bow low, their hands calloused from labor. Your task is to assess their harvests, ensure taxes are collected, and report on local conditions. The contrast is stark: their lives of toil, their homes of earth and straw, stand in sharp relief to your silk robes and refined speech. Yet you see their importance. The empire rests on their labor, just as it rests on your wisdom. You speak to them with kindness, offering words of encouragement, but you know your report will demand more grain, more labor to fuel the emperor's ambitions. Your intellectual life is a cornerstone of your role. In the evenings, you often retreat to your study, a quiet sanctuary filled with the tools of your trade: bamboo scrolls, brushes, and inkstone carved from jade. Picture yourself at a low desk, the candlelight casting a warm glow as you copy a passage from the Analects. The words of Confucius, with their emphasis on virtue and harmony, are your guide, a reminder of the ideals you must uphold. You might also contribute to the Shiji, the great historical record compiled by Sima Jin. This work, a chronicle of the Han and earlier dynasties, is a labor of love and duty. You read reports from distant outposts, accounts of battles or trade along the Silk Road, and synthesized them into a narrative that will endure. The work is meticulous, the air heavy with the scent of ink, but it is a privilege to shape the empire's memory. Your personal life, too, is shaped by Confucian ideals. Filial piety demands that you honor your parents, maintaining a shrine in your home where offerings are made fine rice, incense, perhaps a small jade figurine. These acts are not just ritual, but a connection to your lineage, a reminder of your place in a larger story. You guide your children, ensuring they study the classics, preparing them for their own exams. Picture your eldest son, a boy of 12, reciting passages by lamplight, his brow furrowed with concentration. His success will secure the family's status, but the pressure weighs on him, just as it weighs on you. Your wife, too, plays a role, managing the household with quiet efficiency. Her presence a steady anchor in a life of constant demands. The elegance of your world is not without its tensions. The emperor's court, as we saw with Wu, is a place of ambition and intrigue. You align yourself with allies, perhaps other scholars who share your views, but you are wary of rivals. A misstep could lead to accusations of disloyalty, a charge that carries severe consequences. You've heard of officials dismissed for minor errors, their families stripped of privilege, sent to labor in distant provinces. The fear of exile is a quiet undercurrent, a reminder that your status is precarious, dependent on the emperor's favor and your own vigilance. Yet you take pride in your role, in the knowledge that your work shapes the empire. From the policies that govern provinces to the records that will guide future rulers, your evenings often end with moments of quiet beauty. Picture a gathering in a colleague's pavilion, the air filled with the delicate notes of a guqin, its strings plucked by a skilled musician. You sip tea, its warmth soothing, and recite a poem you've composed, its lines evoking the serenity of a moonlit river or the wisdom of the ancients. These moments are rare, a chance to connect with others who share your world, to find solace in art and intellect. Yet even here, the weight of duty lingers. Your words are judged, your reputation always at stake. As you return to your residence, the city of Chang'an is dark, its streets lit only by the occasional lantern. You sit in your study, a scroll open before you, the brush in your hand poised over a blank sheet. The day's work lingers, edicts drafted, debates navigated, the empire's needs balanced against your own. Yet there is a quiet satisfaction in this life, a sense of purpose in serving the Son of Heaven, in upholding the ideals that bind the empire together. The contrast with the peasant's life is profound, yet both are part of the same world. To threads in the vast tapestry of the Han Dynasty. As we prepare to close this journey, let this image linger. A scholar official, his candle burning low, his mind filled with the words of Confucius, his heart steady with the rhythm of duty. As the candlelight in the scholar official's study flickers, casting its final shadows across the silk scrolls, we draw our journey through the Han Dynasty to a gentle close. The night is deep now, the world outside quiet, save for the soft rustle of leaves or the distant murmur of a city settling into slumber. We have walked through the muddy fields of a peasant, felt the weight of their endless toil under the sun and stars. We have followed the ambition of Emperor Wu, a ruler whose dreams of conquest and immortality shaped an empire, yet left shadows of sacrifice in their wake. We have wandered the dusty trails of the Silk Road, unraveling the mystery of its beginnings, where caravans carried not just silk but the seeds of a connected world. And we have stepped into the refined halls of Chang'an, where a scholar official's life of ink and wisdom bore the quiet weight of duty. Each story, distinct yet interwoven, forms a tapestry of the Han Dynasty, a world of struggle, ambition, mystery, and elegance, now fading into the soft haze of history. Let us linger for a moment on these lives, so distant yet so human. The peasant, rising each dawn to face the fields, their hands calloused, their hearts bound to the land and their ancestors. Their life was one of repetition, a rhythm of planting and harvesting, of survival against the whims of nature and the demands of empire. Yet in their quiet endurance, they were the foundation of the Han, their labor sustaining the grandeur of Chang'an. The emperor, seated in his palace, dreamed of an eternal legacy, his ambition a flame that lit the empire but burned through the lives of those who served him. His victories and reforms reshaped the world, but they came at a cost felt in the villages and the hearts of his court. The Silk Road, a web of paths across deserts and mountains, was a testament to human courage and curiosity, its origins a puzzle that still whispers of adventure and connection. And the scholar official, with their scrolls and silken robes, embodied the ideals of Confucianism, their intellect shaping the empire's course, yet always under the shadow of the emperor's will. These stories, though separated by status and purpose, are bound by a shared truth. The Han Dynasty was a world of contrasts where hardship and beauty, toil and triumph coexisted in delicate balance. The peasant's mud-caked feet and the scholar's ink-stained fingers, the trader's dusty caravan and the emperor's gilded throne all were part of the same empire, each life a thread in its vast weave. As you listen, perhaps lying in the comfort of your own bed, the softness of modern life surrounds you. The struggles of the Han are distant, their weight no longer yours to bear. The fields are quiet now, the palace halls empty, the caravans long vanished into the sands. Yet their echoes remain, preserved in the stories we tell, in the artifacts unearthed from ancient soil, in the ideas that traveled from one world to another. Reflect, if you will, on the rhythm of their lives. The peasant's day began with the dawn, their hands gripping a bronze hoe, their world defined by the seasons and the river. The emperor's ambition drove him through sleepless nights, his mind filled with maps and dreams of eternity. The trader braved the desert's dangers, their heart set on the promise of distant markets. The scholar official, in their quiet study, crafted words that would guide an empire, their life a balance of privilege and pressure. Each faced their own challenges, their own moments of quiet beauty, whether the golden glow of a ripe field, the fleeting peace of a diplomatic triumph, the wonder of a foreign good, or the elegance of a well-crafted poem. These moments, small and fleeting, were the heartbeat of their world, a reminder that even in hardship there was meaning. Now, as the night deepens, let these stories settle around you like a soft blanket. The Han Dynasty, for all its grandeur and struggle, is a distant memory, its people long gone, their lives woven into the fabric of time. You are here in the present, where the air is cool, the world quiet, and the burdens of the past need not trouble you. The peasant's fields, the emperor's palace, the trader's caravan, the scholar's scrolls, they are stories now, tales to lull you into rest. Imagine the yellow river, flowing gently, its waters catching the moonlight, a quiet reminder of the world's endless turning. The Han Dynasty shaped the course of history, its influence felt in the philosophies, trade routes, and governance that followed, but tonight, it is simply a story, a gentle whisper to guide you toward sleep. Breathe deeply, if you wish, and let the images fade, the mud of the paddies, the gleam of silk, the dust of the desert, the flicker of a candle in a scholar's study. The past is a vast and quiet place, its stories a soothing current that carries you away from the present's demands. You need not toil in the fields, nor navigate the intrigues of a palace, nor brave the perils of a desert road. Your world is one of comfort, of soft pillows and warm blankets, where the struggles of the Han are but a distant echo. Let the rhythm of their lives, their work, their dreams, their quiet moments blend with the rhythm of your own breath. Each inhale and exhale a step toward rest. As we close this journey, consider the legacy of the Han Dynasty, not just in its emperors and trade routes, but in the countless lives that sustained it. The peasant, the emperor, the trader, the scholar, they each played their part, their stories intertwining to create something greater than themselves. Their world was one of hardship and beauty, of ambition and endurance, and it lives on in the tales we tell, in the artifacts we uncover. in the ideas that still shape our world. But for now, those tales are done. The night is yours, a quiet space where you can let go, where the past can rest, and where sleep waits like an old friend. So, close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the Han Dynasty fade into the background. The fields are still, the palace arias, la ciudad de los grandes edificios, no está aquí. Pero la ciudad de los pequeños cosas está aquí and corazón. The caravans have reached their destination, the scrolls are sealed, the palace is quiet. You are here, now, in the comfort of your own time, your own place. Let the stories of the Han carry you gently into sleep, their rhythm a lullaby, their weight no longer yours to bear. Good night, and may your dreams be as peaceful as the starlit nights of ancient China.